And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. You have heard of Echelon, but have you ever heard of Skynet? The deep state thought they had an ace in the hole until it failed on Thursday. And major efforts to restart the war in the Middle East were well underway today, and just in time for the new moon during Lionsgate. All this and more in today's World Situation Report.
Now here's the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan in the Office of the Guardian.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry again for getting this out late. It's been an all-out war, and you've probably seen a lot of information on the internet about that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the backstory and why now and what the deep state is trying to achieve, even if they don't know what they're trying to achieve. But we're going to tell you here. Okay, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about Skynet. So Skynet is a U.S. National Security Agency program in part. And in part, China has their own version of Skynet. So what happened over the last couple of days is China attempts to take its Skynet program to a whole nother level. In the U.S., on, let's just say, mainstream news and on the internet, they claim that Skynet is a learning analysis program that has the ability to extract information and to locate terrorist threats and suspects and so on and so forth. They claim that it is used as part of the U.S. Strategic Defense Initiative. Then they also put on the internet that in August 4th, 1997, Skynet begins to rapidly learn and eventually becomes self-aware, which means it's making decisions on its own based on information that is put into the system. They claim that it became self-aware officially at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, August 29th, 1997. Now, Skynet for the U.S. is a heck of a lot more than just a terrorist threat detector. Unless by terrorist threats, they're basically saying that all American citizens are terrorist threats. It also makes different types of strategic defense AI assessments based on who they put in as their enemy. So the information that goes in, they'll give them more information out. But it was also a program that was run and tied to Omega, as a matter of fact. So remember, Omega had the capability to read consciousness and do a lot of different things that it unto itself and by itself can't do. However, were still using this program to detect terrorist threats, I laugh at that, and to analyze any type of data that the Department of Defense, Langley 5, NSA, whoever wanted to use it, would use it for, and also, hacking attempts, those types of things. It would give them possible solutions to their attempts to hack into systems and those kind of things. So that's what the internet version is of it in the short version. Now, in 2005, China created its mass surveillance system they also call Skynet. Allegedly, it's not a part of what the U.S. uses it for, but here is what's on the internet, coincidentally, about China and what they use it for. They say that they have used it to track feminists and LGBTQ plus community members to increase scrutiny. They claim that they have used it in attempts to take over the entire region of Tibet. They claim that anyone that had gone against China taking over the Tibet region would be considered a dissident. They were closely monitored, and a lot more than closely monitored once they located these people. So it was something that was used to determine anyone going against Chinese China's agendas, whatever those agendas might be. And we know they're, let's just say, very extensive lately. Okay, next, they heavily use Skynet to monitor all kinds of mobile phone apps, so like WeChat and Telegram and those types of things. And they will actually locate and arrest or report citizens who are violating let's just say that whatever they consider to be a violation. They also have partnered with some other companies recently, over the last several years, like Megvii, who also specializes in facial recognition. They are also a larger part of the social crediting program and those types of things. And they even state on the internet that, let's see, and I'll quote the article here. As of 2018, the most notable surveillance mechanisms were mass camera surveillance on streets, internet surveillance, and newly invented surveillance methods based on social crediting and identity. Wow, isn't that interesting? They're not talking about your credit score. They even admit in 2018, 1 year before the pandemic, that they were already attempting to and somewhat using a social crediting program on all of their citizens. Isn't that lovely? Next, they also talk about the launching, also in 2018, of surveillance drones and robot police and targeting social media platforms as well. Now, surveillance drones, they're talking about actual drones that fly throughout major cities all over China to surveil its citizens, especially people who have been known to, let's just say, be violators of whatever China considers to be a violation, which could be anyone against their agenda, anyone who speaks out against the government. You know, it's a little bit crazy, and it sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, and that's probably because it is. Talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes here. But they talk about testing a larger market, also further in some of these articles. And this is just information that you can find on the internet. They estimate by the end of 2021 that there'll be somewhere around 770 million surveillance cameras, not only in the U.S., but all over the world, tied to China's Skynet program. Pretty scary, isn't it? So that's what China calls, at least on the internet, their surveillance program. So it's also called Skynet. Now, if you are an avid movie fan and been around on this earth for a while, you'll probably remember a little movie called The Terminator. I think they even quote "I'll be back" as like the most quoted movie quote of all time. But they also talk about in that movie a program called Skynet. Now, in the movie, they talk about Skynet being a revolutionary artificial intelligence system that's built by a company called Cyberdyne Systems for the SAC-NORAD. They talk about it in the film as being a defense network computer, new, powerful, hooked into everything, trusted to run it all. They say it got smart, a new order of intelligence. Now, this was in 1984, and even the U.S. basically said that it didn't become artificial intelligence and start to think for itself until 1997. Wonder where Skynet came from and how long it's been out there. So it basically said, at one point in the movie, Skynet actually saw all humans as a threat, not just the ones on the other side, and decided our fate in a microsecond: extermination. It began with a nuclear war, which destroyed most of the human population and initiated a program of genocide against survivors. Skynet used its resources to gather a slave labor force from surviving humans after the nuclear war. Very interesting bit of information. If we thought Echelon was a threat and them spying on us in our homes and those kind of things wasn't bad enough, now we have an actual AI that when it was attached to Omega could have actually just switched any human it felt as a threat off. Now, we've learned a little bit, at least what they're putting out on the internet for this podcast purpose, I guess you would say, about what China currently is using it for. You know, they've even deployed drones to attack its own citizens if they step out of line or are in violation of whatever China thinks is a violation. Now, that means anything could be a violation. And now that this thing has started to learn on its own, and has been for quite a while, imagine what the reintroduction of its, let's just say, of Archon programs and a connection back to Omega could have done if it was following China's guidelines. And this is, of course, a China deep state thing, just like it's a U.S. deep state thing. Most of Skynet's activities were used by very high-end SSP operatives, and that would be on a very high end. Could they use Skynet to interfere with your cell phones, send out frequencies, to cause cancer, to do all kinds of things to U.S. citizens with this, and eventually, if they had their way, to all citizens around the world? The answer is absolutely yes. And have they done that? Yes, they have. And the failure to launch China's aspect of Skynet worldwide on Thursday afternoon was a huge win for the world. Now, they still think that Omega is going to gain some power during this Lionsgate and that their demon friends are coming back. And that's part of the reason why they decided to try to launch it on Thursday. Technically, their information from Skynet said the appropriate time would be on the 6th of August. This is when it said it would be ready. But China was running out of time and has been running out of time for a long time. So they decided to try to launch it early and to attach a social crediting financial system to it. Yeah, that didn't quite work out. Without the power of Omega behind it, without the ability to attach itself to Archons and so on and so forth, it was a complete and utter failure. And not only that, I'm proud to say I participated in that failure and will continue to participate in multiple failures when it looks like we have an attempted AI system that is supposed to determine a human's fate remotely. Which is something we know they've been able to do for a long time. Next, today, when it failed, they tried to hack into a very old system that was a remnant, if you will, of Omega, which was Marduk's. It did not belong to a human. A human has never had access to it, and it was his Nibiru, when it was around, Archon control system. For those of you that don't know, there is not just one Nibiru, there is 9 Nibirus, and each one contains a giant ball of Archons. It is not a planet where aliens hailed from, benevolent or otherwise. It was completely and totally a program that was, it was a giant ball of Archons. You could not walk on this. None of that was actually going to happen onto planet Nibiru. It was, if it ever did crash into the into the world, I should say, we would have been in serious trouble. But that didn't stop a company called WEI Labs, WEI, laboratories, that are based in the U.S., although they are a China-born company, from trying to hack into this line and try to gain control of Archons within humans so that it could eventually try to reboot this Skynet program, which they thought was going to happen in the next few days, and relaunch it. I have to tell you, over the next few days, the past few days, I'm sorry, there have been a lot of things that have gone on in the last few days, and a lot of them you're seeing in the news. But nothing, in my opinion, was as scary as the deep state getting a hold of Skynet. or fully launching its full capability if it had attached to Omega. Now, anytime they saw an influx of darkness, because there's still some remnants that, and it's very minor, but they come and go during this time of Lionsgate because it used to belong to the dark. There also was a push, as I had told you, from some demons from hell, so to speak, to add to that program and try to relaunch Omega. Not for the benefit of the dumb deep state humans, but for their own benefit to take over this planet. Skynet would have been part of that program, which is why they were told not to launch it till August 6th. But every single thing that starts to activate, so to speak, pretty much is taken out within an hour of it actually activating, and it never even gets off the ground. So, these people are totally wasting their time. But that did not stop them from coming up with a grandiose plan over the last few days to really ramp up a war in the Middle East to try to still transmute that light energy coming in into dark energy so that it could open up various portals in the world, everywhere from in Russia to that's southern Russia and their old deep underground military base, to Israel, to, they've been to several different locations. There's a few in the United States, the Mormon temple at the base of the mountain, not the one in Salt Lake, but there's another one there. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But, underneath that facility, there's no surprise there. And to other locations here in the U.S., in Idaho and also in Nevada, in Arizona, under the Grand Canyon, and a few others. And I'll try to get you the list. I've really been pushing to try to make sure that, we have as few people that lose their lives because of their ridiculousness in the Middle East right now. And I've spent most of my day doing that. So it's been, basically me and a few against the world at this point in time because they are pulling together everything. So there's no surprise that they are doing that this weekend. For those of you that don't know, early Sunday morning is a new moon, and which they're hoping that this new moon during Lionsgate will actually catapult them into a world full of darkness where we're taken back over by Anti-Source or Satan or Lucifer or insert demon name here. And it's not really working out. So they had to try to do something. And that something, despite telling everybody, they've told NATO it's over the oil pipeline near Gaza. They've told this to you, Ukraine, then Ukraine starts droning Russia. It's all a bunch of lies. And at the top, whatever's left of it, they probably have more knowledge of why they're doing this than anyone else, especially since the SSP was manning all these locations, even some in New Zealand, some in Antarctica. They were everywhere today, all day long, hoping for some glimmer of hope that their dark ones will come back and then they will be in charge. I guess that's what they think they're going to be. I don't know. But let's talk a little bit about the Middle East. So one of the things that I've been telling you is that, these Hamas leaders that are allegedly dead, the president of Iran, there was a helicopter crash a few months back, and those are things that have been happening. Well, during the days, the last 48 hours specifically, Iran has taken many, many phone calls from China's deep state. We can call them the China of the Middle East at this moment in time, mainly due to fake Khomeini that's there and whomever that takes orders from the Chinese deep state in their Skynet agenda. They were actually informed a few days ago that this Skynet program was going to go live, and they were going to be a part of it, and they were going to be in control of all of their citizens in Iran as well. This was what they're telling those people. Were not, at least not all of the workers, so to speak, in the military, that would be their generals and whatnot, were definitely not read in on the fact that their people that they're avenging their death for are still alive. But throughout the course of watching Iran offer to provide at least the top 1/3 of the African continent, every single country, weaponry in order to join the fight against Israel. Now, why would non-Islamic countries be willing to join the fight against Israel? Well, for those of you that don't know, pretty much every African in every African country is aware of a company called the Anglo-American Company. Number one. Number two, everybody pretty much on the African continent is aware that the Mossad is even more prevalent than the CIA throughout the entire continent. Next, everybody on the whole continent is aware of, the Europeans coming in. Most of the ones that were sent in were on behalf of Rothschild, Oppenheimer. They are still sending bars of gold every day on KLM flights straight to Germany on behalf of the deep state and not giving the countries anything. Also, if you are from Angola, then you're aware that your diamonds are still sitting in Dubai and you've never been paid for them if you are an Angolan general. So it was pretty easy for Iran to start dialing for dollars, and it wasn't just Iran. There were other countries as well provoking them and promising them a lot of different things should they join in the fight. But I was tracking a particular plane going from Iran to North Sudan, who had already agreed, allegedly, to avenge these leaders' deaths, at least the Islamic part of the country there, along with its leaders. So in the course of tracking these weapons that Iran had been sending out, and there are a few other countries that were providing weapons as well, but Iran was pretty big, especially throughout the northern part of the continent due to Khomeini's influence, or fake Khomeini's influence. I was checking with some contacts of mine because it's kind of hard to get a lot of intel from some of these areas because they're pretty remote. And so my contact called me back, and I'm just going to leave it as my contact because I don't want to put this person on the radar. He's definitely does a lot of work on behalf of the African continent, many different countries. He's from that continent, spends a lot of time there. He also spends a lot of time traveling around the world, looking for technologies and things that can be used on the continent. So he's got a really good heart for the African people, being an African himself. So he calls me back, and here's what he had to say.
So just so you know, my intel guys substantiate what you're saying about Belize. There's a government official there that has been bringing in guys from Lebanon. They're training over there. They're getting Belizean passports so that they could pass into America. So that operation has been ongoing for a while. They're keeping tracks on them and obviously plan to interrupt that and disrupt that. So everything that you're saying is matching up with that.
Yep, there you have it, folks. Even from someone that is not me, that is a person that is involved, I might just say heavily involved with affairs throughout the African continent in at least 20 to 25 countries, that has now confirmed that little tidbit of information. The rest of the information I left out simply because it's a lot of its operations in progress, and we're trying to keep the northern part of the African continent from participating in Chinese deep state shenanigans. So, but yeah, that proves to you there that there are a lot of leaders that they say are dead, whether it's Iranian officials, or I shouldn't say they're officials, but people that are high-ranking in groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. They're all fine. They're sipping cocktails on the beach in Belize, just kind of chilling out over there until their passports come through, in which time they intend to move into America because that is what the Americans have promised them. Isn't that great? You know, how the U.S. claims that the Houthis, as an example, is a terrorist organization. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. You know, the leaders from the Pentagon have gone on national television and said how the Hamas is a terrorist organization. But yet, hey, let's give them all passports and help them come into America. Wow, isn't that a wonderful U.S. government we have here? There's your deep state hard at work, you know, spending your taxpayer dollars. And now you know what they're spending them on, helping terrorist organizations reformulate here in the United States. But to be fair, with 100% certainty, a lot of this has been arranged between China's deep state toadies here in the U.S., known as the entire White House administration, most of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, whether they know it or not, 3/4 of the operatives, and everyone else that's trying to implode the economy here in the U.S. So now you've heard it from somebody else's mouth, let's just say fairly high ranking throughout the continent. Yeah, so today we heard from a few other people. Speaking of U.S. economy, you probably did see a drop in the market today. It's not a really high percentage, but the reason for the drop in the market is because they have been propping it up over the last couple of weeks. They failed to get any money out of Act Blue because Act Blue doesn't have any money anymore. And the next thing was, well, we can drop the market, and Berkshire Hathaway and, of course, Soros and all the big hedge funds will certainly donate a few $1 million here and there to our war campaign in the Middle East. And that they did. So they dropped the market a little bit. I mean, it wasn't quite even $100 million. I think it was somewhere around 70-something million dollars was extracted from the market, and that'll buy them 48 hours worth of war in the Middle East if they actually spend it on that. They're probably going to give people down payments and promise them that Skynet is still going to launch and going to be the new system of all of Earth, and we are going to be used as human slave workers. Won't that be lovely? Not a chance. Not on our watch anyway. Okay, so other games that have been going on today. So as all of this weaponry moves into these various countries, we track it, we trace it, and we, let's just say, terminate it. That has been going on not only with myself, but also with some contacts of mine, and of course our friends with the UPU and the Enforcer. So we definitely have Sky Command there in the Middle East, watching everything that's going on, and firing when it does not cause loss of life, because that is the only thing that we're mainly concerned about. There are a lot of innocents participating in this game that's going on there, and we have to make sure that we're preventing the most loss of life as we possibly can during this time when the deep state is, I call it manistration. They're manistrating there in the Middle East. Hopefully, once their Lionsgate game is over, there'll be no point. Nobody got paid yet, even for the Gaza situation, but yet everybody's still rallied for the deep state brouhaha. Now, let's talk about meetings that are going on over the next few days. So as this situation progresses over there, everybody was due to be paid some money today, big money from China. So much so that China and the Rothschilds have been fighting because neither one of them has achieved this task. They also had various U.S. Treasury officials flying all over Europe, all over UK, all over the place, being forced, some of them at gunpoint, to do their job. They were supposed to get any money to fund this operations or get some kind of control over the financial system. And the insiders that we talked to basically told us with 100% certainty they failed at every turn. However, they still have to go and they still have to try because most of them are being held at gunpoint, and you know, it's not these people are not nice people. So they do whatever they ask them to do, and then it just doesn't work. And at least it's the computer system basically saying it's not working, and it's not them. So everywhere they pretty much turn, they've failed to raise any money. Part of the reason for that is because a lot of the people that are doing the alleged raising have never been involved actually in the running of any financial system anywhere, not on this planet or on another one. Number one. And number two, that includes, and I'm going to say that includes the Order of the Dragon and the Rothschild family and the other families that are involved with them that make up the Order of the Dragon. So this is why every single thing they try doesn't work, why there's never any money coming out of there. See, the unfortunate part is the lies, and the compartmentalization runs deep. The Order of the Black Sun and the Duck Dynasty operatives and those people have never run a financial system, never been involved in anything other than an economic assassination, and don't know actually how to build a country. They may have had some training and some information from people like the World Bank, the IMF, and those people, because they needed to use them to economically assassinate countries. However, economically assassinating a country when you have an alien race helping you is not that hard to do. However, if you're economically assassinating a country and you don't have the backing of those that run the system, then you would have failed during the USSR days. You would have failed with every other country. And your math there at the IMF is incorrect. These are things that the deep state fails to recognize. There was always someone behind them or something behind them, helping them with every job they did. And I know their egos will never allow them to admit that, but that is a fact. And without that help of a major AI system, Skynet's dead, but that's not even a major AI. I'm talking about your Omega system that was run and controlled always by non-humans. You had a little access to it, or the deep state had a little access to it. Heck, you had a little access to it if you've got bank accounts, if you've ever used a cell phone, you had access to it. Probably they had a little bit more access than you, but, it was out there for sure, in the past. But these are all things that they fail to recognize. So you've got the Order of the Dragon families who, for some reason, the Order of the Black Sun, whatever's left of it, thinks that they were in control of the financial system, which is an absolute 100% lie. The other side is under the impression that those people started many wars, finished many wars, won many wars. Therefore, they keep ordering them to go to war, and they can't go to war right either. None of this is working. The money's not coming on the one side. The wars aren't working on the other side. And let's just say with a little help from our friends, they'll never work. Why isn't the gate opening? That's what at the top they're talking about. We know all about the aliens. We're the SSP. We're the SSP generals. We're the big guys. That's what I keep hearing, right? They know everything that the aliens do. They can track dark matter and dark energy better than anyone else on this planet. Well, not really, guys, because I can track it just fine also. And I also see it as a threat. Therefore, when I see it coming in, it's terminated. So that's why you see it, and now you don't. But for these people, the failure to achieve their objective is not based on a treasury agent. It's not based on some guy from China. It's not based on the fact that you people can't run a war. It's the fact that you've never done this before. It's your first day on the job of world domination. And you're really trying, and I understand that, and I can appreciate that fact. However, you still need to get the training wheels off your bike. And you're never going to be able to do that at this rate. And definitely not without me. And me watching you, I'm not seeing much of a value in spending any money in anything related to what you're doing at this moment in time because, hey, you don't look like you're trying to achieve any objective. You certainly look like you're power hungry and you're not going anywhere and you're sort of running operations around in circles trying to sell Trump Bitcoin sneakers and shot glasses, with fight on them. I mean, I don't really see the point, like in participating in your world. And I've done government funding and, off and on for a period of about 10 years, and I'm not doing it anymore. Can you see my frustration? I know that this is a question that keeps coming up over and over again. Will she fund the Pentagon? Will she fund the government? The answer to the question is 10 years I did it. And what did you guys do for me? And what did you do for the people of this planet? And that's not only the United States, that's South Africa, that's Russia, that's China, that's other governments also. That's also in part the UK. And look how far you are. If you're a citizen of any one of these countries, you tell me how our trillions of dollars was spent. And I can tell you right now, not one of you will raise your hand and say, on us, the citizens of this country. Some of you will say our infrastructure is falling apart, especially if you're from the United States. We've seen nothing from these people whatsoever. So I just kind of consider it a useless, overpriced, it's kind of like the audience at the Oprah show. They sort of kind of participate a little bit in what goes on, but they don't really do anything. Like they don't make the show run. They're not running the cameras. They're not doing the things. And that's how I see all of you. You guys are the ones at the Oprah show that are running the cameras and, the guests, and you're talking and you're participating and you're, maybe educating people on your life experiences or whatever's going on in this particular show we're trying to talk about. But you're actually doing it. And that's the most important thing. And a lot of you are doing it even before we do anything, before CARE comes. Nobody's waiting. I see hemp seeds going out for clothing and for, housing supplies. I mean, I get your messages. I see the updates, to make housing building blocks in less fortunate countries where they can do it very inexpensively with hemp. But they're already growing the plants. They're already done it. Maybe it was a feat unto itself to get it through customs, but they managed to do it and things are moving on. I see all kinds of people doing things every single day, including us trying to make changes and differences and preparing for what's about to happen in the future. I don't see governments doing anything except going around in circles dependent on a bunch of people that are sending them to a slaughter. And they're sending them to a slaughter if you're with the deep state, because all the people that have been slaughtered even in the last 48 hours. And that's not our people. That's not the average everyday citizens necessarily of the Middle East now, is it? No, it is not. So probably for me, I need to get back to work because I need to make sure and see what's going on out there right now. I just got some information about an explosion in Damascus. They're kind of gone on the cheap now. They're sort of doing car bombs and those kind of things, but I still need to check on it because of who they're alleging was assassinated, who will probably end up in Belize by the end of the weekend. So back to work for me. I hope the rest of you have a wonderful Friday night if you're in the U.S., and a good morning if you're in Australia, so and all parts in between. But have a lovely night and a lovely weekend, and I will hopefully have more of an update for you on Monday as to the unfolding situation in the Middle East. So thank you so much. Take care and have a great weekend.
Want to share